In 1 Kings chapter 11 in the King James Version. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, Forasmuch as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the king's seed in Edom. For it came to pass, when David was in Edom, and Job the captain of the host was gone up to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom. For 6 months did Job remain there with all Israel, until he had cut off every male in Edom. That Hadad fled, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt, Hadad being yet a little child. And they arose out of Midian, and came to Paran, and they took men with them out of Paran, and they came to Egypt unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, which gave him an house, and appointed him victuals, and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him to wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Tahpenes the queen. And the sister of Tahpenes bare him Genubath, his son, whom Tahpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's household among the sons of Pharaoh. And when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Job the captain of the host was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, Let me depart, that I may go to mine own country. Then Pharaoh said unto him, But what hast thou lacked with me, that behold, thou seekest to go to thine own country? And he answered, Nothing, howbeit let me go in any wise. And God stirred him up another adversary, Rezon, the son of Eliada, which fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah. And he gathered men unto him, and became captain over a band. When David slew them of Zobah, and they went to Damascus, and dwelt therein, and reigned in Damascus. And he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, beside the mischief that Hadad did, and he abhorred Israel, and reigned over Syria. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zereda, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zerah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, "Take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because that they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in mine eyes, and keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son will I give 1 tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and wilt walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. And I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, unto Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. And the rest of the acts of Solomon, and all that he did in his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? And the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. Okay, so there was a lot here. One thing that in particular that came up to my mind as I was reading this, parenting, and for instance, not necessarily parenting as what you think, but it also that too, parenting, family with children, parenting though, and also providing instruction. So maybe not necessarily being in a family, but being of some type of leadership role, or providing instructions for work, right? Let's say for work or for school, maybe a teacher, or instructing someone else on how to be of assistance, or how to understand the task at hand. So there's many different ways you can look at it in different life aspects. So listen to this though. Okay, so it starts right as verse 9. We'll go from, and the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. Okay, so he gave these, and he told Solomon about this, not once, but twice. Wherefore, and he had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. So What was the issue? And things that we can think about. So, the Lord said to abide by the commandments and everything will go well. If you worship me, abide by the commandments and everything you will be continue to be blessed. He gave him wisdom. He gave him, at this point, this is near the end of his life, but he also gave him wealth and everything that he didn't ask for, which would be something that unfortunately typical humanistic: long life, health, riches, etc., security from enemies. Solomon didn't ask that. He asked for wisdom to judge the people accordingly, to do justly among the people. And so that pleased the Lord. And so he gave him that. And on top of that, everything else that would be typically asked for. But Solomon didn't ask for that. So here he is now, in abundance and very, very wise. So wise to the fact that we're going to get to a lot of what he's going to have to say, particularly in Ecclesiastes about it. So there's going to be 2 books that Solomon writes here that we're going to get back to. And if you remember in the NIV version, we went on those and you'll remember just how wise Solomon is, but also what he did and what he said, what he claimed. He didn't just say, I never did those things, or I did. No, he took accountability, very much so, and tells us about it. But also what it was worth. So here is the Lord telling somebody, and I just referenced like a parent immediately, saying, hey, as long as you go to school, as long as I don't hear any bad reports about the teacher, and you get good grades or decent grades. Instead, Solomon at this point was willfully not following the Lord. Although he had the Lord in his heart, he still had faith, but he was purposely allowing for other things to happen that should not happen. And some of those were because of what it said at the very beginning. But King Solomon, verse 1, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. And they all had different cultural practices. Instead of conforming, or instead of seeing the grace and mercy of the Lord, instead of seeing the salvation of the Lord, they decided they had their own thing. And that was their choice. However, Solomon allowed for the influence of their choices to influence him. Thus leading, and he was a representative. He was leading the people, and so he's leading the people astray. And what do we do? In parenting, I hear all the time, well, we take their cell phone away. We ground them. Sometimes there's other type of disciplinary actions. I know there's still people doing little whoopings or what have you. But, a witness here was raised in those type of situations. It is a thing of discipline to hopefully ensure a better result. And so things happened. The Lord told him what to do in these situations, and instead he refused to do it. So there was issues. There were issues towards the end, especially when it came to his children, when it came to what was going on in the kingdom, and how these people started rising up and starting to come against the kingdom. And that a prophet even told him, hey, because of what you did, 10 tribes of the kingdom is going to be ripped from you. And so nowadays, when we are having difficulty with a situation, and you're seeing the result of someone not following directions, not listening to you, let's go on the parent route, what type of disciplinary action do you do? Do you seek the Lord in his wisdom? Are you provided a prophecy even? I mean, in this time, he was told literally what was going to happen in the future. Not all the time are we told, hey, we have ideas. If this person continues to go down this path, there could be bad things. It could lead to, we're just going to go in extreme circumstances, because that's how we humans do in our brain. It could lead to drugs. It could lead to arrests. It could lead to all kinds of things. And may or may not necessarily be the case, but we're at this point throwing darts into the air. We're guessing as to how the slippery slope is going to end. Whereas King Solomon had a prophet that told him how things were going to happen, besides the Lord God telling him how things were going to happen. Well, in a way, we too have a glimpse as to what is going to happen. So yes, we in our minds have these things played out, potentials for what could happen to our loved one. But it also tells us here in the Lord's wisdom what could happen. And so thinking about that, what are ways to speak with your loved one? What are ways to be able to communicate? We can definitely pray for them, absolutely, and seek the Lord's guidance and wisdom and words from the Lord, our God, words from Jesus to help us with our relationships, with our teachings, especially when we're put in those circumstances. And when you look at it in different aspects, let's say it's someone that's not listening even at your job or even at school, still there is something that we can do. We can lean and trust in the Lord and also listen out for those key, because sometimes we miss things. Sometimes we miss that our child said something or feels a certain way or acts a certain way. Sometimes we miss how a coworker or peer acts. Sometimes we miss how those signs that people act out or feel or express in a classroom. Sometimes we miss those, what we think of are subtle or not so, or very small signs, but those are actually there for a reason. Like I mentioned before too, a wave, a smile on someone's face, an acknowledgement can change someone's whole aspect of thinking. It can change them for their future even. So there's a lot here. There's a lot, but I urge you to go to the Lord and see how this plays out, what the Lord has for your life in the different ways, and understanding, even Solomon himself, being very wise, he too had some faults in him, and he was given guidance. And we'll see exactly when we get to, especially Ecclesiastes, what he does about those things eventually. But before we go on, though, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? Read over this. How does it make you feel? And what does it make you think?